we just got a new standard banner featuring Shining and Pallas as our 6 stars, and Asbestos, Kafka and Akafuyu as our 5 stars. Before we get to the banner itself, make sure to support my channel by liking, commenting and subscribing. It really means a lot to me. I would also like to point out that I only talk about these operators' gameplay. Waifus and husbandos over meta any day. You should always pull for operators you want and like instead of listening to me. I am not your dad. So let's get to the banner itself. I think this is definitely a skip banner. It has extremely poor timing as we are currently having an insanely powerful limited banner, and it also has very niche operators. So let's move on to the operators, starting with Shining, a single target medic who provides extra defense for all allies within her range and gains some extra attack speed from her second talent. Her future module increases the defense her talent gives and also gives some extra defense to melee units. And her other future module gives a small bonus depending on your skill choice, second skill giving some attack and third skill giving some SP recovery. Let's move on to her skills. Shining's first skill is a simple attack and attack speed boost. The first skill overall provides less than the other skills and doesn't really synergize with Shining's role in the team. Her second skill is a very low SP cost auto trigger that makes her next heal also shield the target. The shield can absorb any type of damage, and the shielded targets also gain some extra defense. It is a great skill. The shield works against all damage and allows your operators to tank bigger hits with no problem. The second skill will be the go-to skill for most stages, and it's all around very good defensive skill. And then finally, we have her third skill that gives Shining more attack and provides all allies within range a massive defense buff. The skill is fairly niche, but can be a real lifesaver in the rare situations when you need to tank extremely large amounts of physical damage. The skill has extremely high SP cost, but also very high initial SP and 60-second duration. The third skill has lost some of its value as the meta has evolved, and it is usually better to use things like fast redeployment operators instead of just having a defender tanking the big hits. Let's have a quick summary. Shining is a single target medic who can also provide extra defense. Her second skill is an auto trigger shield that also increases the target's defense. And her third skill is very long duration, massive defense boost. Both skills allow operators to tank a lot more damage than they would normally be able to. However, she only provides defensive buffs and is often less desired and outperformed by operators with more offensive buffs. Overall, Shining is a good operator. She truly shines in very hard content. She is also great for new players who do not have really high level strong operators, allowing them to do content where their operators might struggle to survive. However, her pure defensive buffs are usually valued lower than operators with utility and offensive buffs. And moving on to Pallas, a support card who can attack enemies from range, deal extra damage to enemies that she isn't blocking, gives all Minoan operators a vigor effect, and heals the operator tile ahead of her when she attacks an enemy. Her talents and traits all have some awkward limitations. Her DPS suffers a lot if she has to block enemies. The vigor effect requires operators' HP to be above 80%, and for the healing talent to work, you need an operator deployed on the tile ahead of her. Her module makes her deal even more damage to enemies that she isn't blocking, while also making the vigor HP threshold and the attack it provides higher. This is a very good module, and you should definitely get it if you like using Pallas. Her second module allows her to be deployed on ranged tiles and further increases the healing she does. It can be a fun module, but overall it's worse than the other one. Let's take a look at her skills. Pallas' first skill is a low SP cost auto trigger that makes her next attack deal more damage and attack twice. It is her best sustained DPS skill and go-to skill for pure damage. Her second skill increases her range, gives her more attack, and gives her attack a chance to stun. It is a good skill for interrupting enemies, but overall the most niche and the least used skill. And then we have her third skill that gives her large amount of attack, allows her to attack 2 additional enemies, and gives the operator deployed on the tile ahead of her or herself if there is no operator there a vigor effect, defense buff, and extra block. The third skill provides more burst damage and defense, and is most useful when you can give the buffs it provides to some extremely strong operator. You can also use it to buff Pallas herself, but in my opinion, it's rarely worth it. Let's have a quick summary. Pallas is a support guard with decent personal DPS. She can attack enemies from range and deals extra damage to enemies that she isn't blocking. She can also heal and provide both defensive and offensive buffs. The first skill has highest sustained personal DPS, the second skill provides some CC, and the third skill provides a burst of damage and some defense to an ally or herself. All three skills are usable, but the first skill and the third skill will outperform the second skill most of the time. She is an odd unit with an odd archetype. Her talents, traits and skills all have awkward limitation and requires you to plan around using her to truly maximize her DPS or support capabilities. Overall, Pallas is a luxury operator. She has okay personal DPS, can attack from range, and provide lots of utility. However, her DPS drops a lot if she is blocking enemies or if her HP is below the Vigor threshold. She is a bit of an odd operator who needs you to plan around her limitations. And then finally, we'll take a quick look at the 5 stars. All of the banner's 5 stars are incredibly niche, and I definitely cannot recommend 10 pulling. Kafka will be in a certificate store, and while I don't really recommend it, you can buy her from there if you really want her for whatever reason. As always, thank you so much for watching. Make sure to like, comment and subscribe for more Arknights content. See you in the next video.